September 14, 2019. I remember the exact date because of the smell. The safety deposit vault at First National in Harrisburg had this particular odor: old paper, metal, and something underneath. Something sweeter. Like flowers left too long in stagnant water. The banker, a woman named Deborah with reading glasses on a beaded chain, slid the narrow metal box across the table toward me. My grandmother had been dead for 11 days. I should back up. I should tell you about my grandmother first, because none of this makes sense without understanding who Eleanor Vance was. Or who I thought she was. She raised me from the time I was 7, after my parents' accident on Route 81. She was already 62 then, a retired piano teacher with arthritic hands and a house that smelled of lavender sachets and Earl Grey. She was kind. Patient. She never raised her voice, not once in all those years. But there were things she didn't talk about. Her life before Pennsylvania. Her marriage. My grandfather had died in 1962, 12 years before I was born, and she kept no photographs of him anywhere in the house. Not one. When I asked about him as a child, she would get this look. Not sad, exactly. Something more like the expression you'd have watching a wasp crawl across a window pane. Careful. Waiting. She would say, "Raymond was not a well man, sweetheart. Some people are born with something missing. It's not their fault, but it doesn't make them less dangerous." And that was all. That was always all. I learned to stop asking. I'm telling you this now, sitting in my apartment in Philadelphia with the radiator clicking and the November rain against the windows, and I keep stopping to look at my hands. At my fingers. I haven't worn the ring. I want to be clear about that. I haven't worn it, but it's here, in a small velvet box on my desk, and sometimes when I'm falling asleep I think I can smell that safety deposit vault. That sweetness underneath the metal and paper. In the vault, Deborah left me alone with the box. Bank policy, she said. Privacy. The room had no windows, just fluorescent lights that buzzed at a frequency I could feel in my teeth. Inside the safety deposit box, there were 3 items: a manila envelope, a folded piece of fabric that turned out to be a man's handkerchief with the initials RV embroidered in the corner, and a small ring box. Navy blue. The kind you'd get from a jeweler in the 1950s. I opened the ring box first. I don't know why. Maybe because it was the smallest, or because I knew somehow that it was important. Inside was a wedding band. Gold, but old gold, that particular yellow that they don't make anymore, deeper than modern jewelry. The band was thin, sized for a woman's finger, and on the inside there was an inscription. I had to angle it toward the light to read it. It said, "Until you return to me, R." I remember my first thought was that it was romantic. My grandmother had never mentioned anything romantic about my grandfather. She'd never mentioned anything at all. And here was this promise, engraved in gold, locked away for decades. I actually smiled. Isn't that strange? Looking back, knowing what I know now, but in that moment, I smiled. The manila envelope contained documents. A marriage certificate from Wheeling, West Virginia, dated June 3, 1952. A life insurance policy. A death certificate for Raymond Allen Vance, dated November 9, 1962, cause of death listed as cardiac arrest. And beneath all of that, a letter. Handwritten, the paper so old it had gone soft at the edges, the ink faded to a brown that was almost the color of dried blood. The letter was from my grandmother. Addressed to no one. Dated November 10, 1962, one day after my grandfather's death. I'm going to read it to you now, exactly as it was written. I've read it maybe 100 times since that day in the vault, and every time, there's a moment where my chest gets tight and I have to remind myself to breathe. I am writing this so that someone knows. I am writing this because I cannot speak it aloud, not to anyone, not even to the walls of this house. Raymond is dead. I found him this morning in his chair by the window, and his face was peaceful, and his hands were folded in his lap, and I felt nothing. God forgive me, I felt nothing but relief. For 10 years, he has been wrong. Since 1952, since the night of our wedding, something changed in him. I saw it in his eyes when he put the ring on my finger. A flicker. Like a candle flame in a draft. And then he smiled, but it was not his smile anymore. The doctors said it was nerves. They said new brides imagine things. They did not have to live with what I lived with. He stopped sleeping. Not less sleep. No sleep. I would wake at 2, at 3, at 4 in the morning, and he would be sitting in the dark, looking at me. Always looking at me. When I asked what he was doing, he would say he was waiting. I asked him what he was waiting for. He said, for you to come back. I had to stop reading there, the first time. In that windowless vault room with the humming lights. I set the letter down and pressed my palms flat against the table and counted to 10. I could hear my own heartbeat, too fast, too loud. And I could smell that sweetness again, stronger now, as if it were coming from the paper itself. I need you to understand something. My grandmother was not a fanciful woman. She did not believe in ghosts or spirits or anything beyond the Lutheran hymns she sang on Sunday mornings. She balanced her checkbook to the penny. She kept receipts filed by month and year. She was the most rational person I have ever known. And this letter, this was not her. This was someone terrified. The ring, she continued in the letter. He made me wear it always. If I took it off even to wash dishes, he would know. He would find me in whatever room I was in and he would take my hand and slide it back onto my finger and he would say, "This is how I keep you. This is how I know you're really here." His hands were always cold. Even in summer. Even when the rest of him was warm. I tried to leave once. In 1958. I packed a bag while he was at work at the mill and I got as far as the Greyhound station on Marshall Street. I sat on the bench with my suitcase and I waited for the bus to Pittsburgh, and then I looked down at my hand. The ring was gone. I had not taken it off. I would never have taken it off. But it was gone. I went home. I had to. And when I opened the front door, Raymond was standing in the hallway, even though he should have been at work for another 4 hours. He was holding the ring between his thumb and forefinger, and he was smiling. That smile that was not his smile. He said, "You almost made it." And then he put it back on my finger. I'm going to pause here because I know how this sounds. I know. Trust me, I've thought about it from every angle. Mental illness. Delusion. An abused woman constructing a narrative to make sense of her suffering. I thought all of those things. I wanted to believe all of those things. It would have been easier. But there's more to the letter. And there's what happened after I read it. There's what's been happening since. So if you're still listening, if you're lying there in the dark with your headphones in, I need you to stay with me. Because I don't have anyone else to tell this to. My grandmother's letter continued. The night he died, I woke at 3 a.m. I don't know why. Something pulled me from sleep, some sound or feeling. The bedroom was cold, too cold for November, and I could see my breath in the moonlight. Raymond's side of the bed was empty. It was often empty. But this time was different. I knew before I found him. I knew he was gone. I found him in his chair by the window, like I said. And here is the thing I will never tell anyone, not the coroner, not the pastor, not the doctor who signed the death certificate. Here is the thing I am only writing down so that someone, someday, will know, the ring was in his hand. Not on my finger, where I always wore it. In his dead, cold hand. Clutched so tight that his fingernails had cut into his palm. I tried to take it from him. I tried for almost an hour. His fingers would not open. Dead fingers should loosen, shouldn't they? Rigor mortis takes time. But his hand was locked around that ring like he was still alive. Like he was still holding on. I finally pried it free with a butter knife from the kitchen drawer. I had to. I could not let the mortician find it. I could not let anyone know. When I finally got it free, I looked at the inscription. I had looked at it 1,000 times before, but this time, in the moonlight, with my dead husband's body still warm in the chair behind me, I saw that the words had changed. Where it had once said "until you return to me," it now said, "I am waiting." That's where my grandmother's letter ended. No signature. No closing. Just those 3 words, "I am waiting," and then nothing. The page torn at the bottom, as if she had meant to write more and then couldn't. Or didn't. I sat in that vault for a long time after I finished reading. Long enough that Deborah knocked twice to check on me. Long enough that when I finally emerged, the afternoon light through the bank's front windows had turned to that particular orange of early evening. The ring box was in my purse. The letter was in my purse. The handkerchief with RV embroidered on it was in my purse. I could feel all of them, a weight against my hip, as I walked out into the September air. I should have thrown them away. I know that now. I knew it then, even as I got into my car and drove the 3 hours back to Philadelphia. I knew it as I set the velvet ring box on my kitchen counter and stared at it while the coffee maker burbled and the evening news played on the television I'd left on for company. I knew, and I didn't. For the first 2 weeks, nothing happened. I put the ring in my desk drawer. I filed the letter away with my grandmother's other documents, the ones the lawyer had sent, the ones about the house and the small life insurance policy and the bank accounts that totaled less than $15,000. I tried to forget about it. I almost did. And then I started dreaming. Not every night, but often enough. The same dream, or variations of it. I'm standing in a house I don't recognize, older than my grandmother's, with different wallpaper and different furniture, but I know somehow that it's hers. That it's the house in West Virginia. The house she shared with Raymond. In the dream, I'm wearing a nightgown I've never owned. White cotton, long-sleeved, old-fashioned. And I'm walking down a hallway toward a closed door. I can hear breathing on the other side. Slow, patient breathing. Like someone sleeping, except I know they're not sleeping. I know they're awake. I know they're waiting. I always wake up before I open the door. Always. But each time, I get a little closer. My hand reaches for the knob. My fingers brush the cold brass. And just before I can grip it, I'm awake, gasping, tangled in my sheets, and my left ring finger, the one where a wedding band would go, is aching. Like something has been pressing into it. Like something has been holding on. 3 weeks after I brought the ring home, I woke up and it wasn't in my desk drawer anymore. I want to be clear about this. I had not taken it out. I had not touched that drawer in days. But when I woke up that Thursday morning, the velvet box was on my nightstand. Open. The ring catching the thin October light coming through my bedroom blinds. I live alone. I have lived alone since my divorce in 2016. There is no one else with a key to my apartment. No one. I checked every lock, every window, every closet. Nothing had been disturbed. Nothing except that small navy box, sitting there as if it had always been there. As if it belonged there. I put it back in the drawer. I put a book on top of the drawer. I told myself that I must have taken it out in my sleep, that sleepwalking runs in families, although my grandmother never mentioned it, that there was some logical, rational explanation. My grandmother's voice in my head, there's always a rational explanation, sweetheart. Even when there isn't. It happened again 3 days later. And then twice the following week. Each time, I would put the ring away, farther away, in increasingly ridiculous places, and each time, I would wake to find it somewhere closer to me. On the bathroom sink. On my coffee table. Once, balanced on the edge of my pillow, so close to my face that when I opened my eyes, the gold was blurred and enormous. I started sleeping badly. Of course I did. You're probably thinking, well, obviously you're taking it out yourself, you just don't remember. And I understand that. I do. That's what I would think too, if I were you. But here's the thing I haven't told you yet. Here's the thing that made me decide I needed to say all of this out loud, even if it's just to strangers on the internet. Last month, November 9th, the anniversary of Raymond's death, although I didn't realize the date until afterward, I found the ring on my finger. I woke up, and it was there. Fitted perfectly, like it had been made for me. And when I looked at the inscription inside, the same words my grandmother had described were there, etched into the gold as if they had always been there. I am waiting. I tried to take it off. I want you to understand that I tried. I ran my finger under cold water. I used soap, dish soap, olive oil. I twisted and pulled until my knuckle was red and swollen and my eyes were blurring with frustrated tears. It would not come off. It felt like it was part of me, like it had grown into my skin overnight. And then, around noon, when I had almost resigned myself to going to the emergency room and asking someone to cut it off, it slid free. Just like that. Easy as anything. I stared at it in my palm, that old gold catching the weak November sun, and I could have sworn it was warm. Not body temperature warm. Warmer. Like someone else had just been holding it. I haven't worn it since. I want to be very clear about that. But I also haven't been able to get rid of it. I've tried. I put it in a donation box at Goodwill and drove away, and when I got home, it was on my kitchen counter. I threw it in the Schuylkill River from the South Street Bridge, watched it disappear into the gray water, and the next morning it was in my bathroom, still wet, sitting in the soap dish. I don't know what else to do. I've looked up everything I can find about my grandfather, Raymond Allen Vance, 1924 to 1962, mill worker, veteran, husband. There are no photos online. No records beyond the basic vital statistics. No one left alive who knew him. He's just a name, some dates, and whatever it was that my grandmother saw in his eyes on their wedding night. The dreams haven't stopped. If anything, they're getting more vivid. Closer. Last night, I finally opened the door at the end of that hallway. There was a room behind it, empty except for a chair by a window. And in the chair, I'm sorry, I need a moment. Give me a moment. In the chair was a man. I couldn't see his face because he was looking out the window, away from me. But I could see his hands. They were folded in his lap, perfectly still, and they were pale. Too pale. And his fingers were curled slightly, as if he was holding something. As if he was waiting for something to be placed in his palm. I woke up before he turned around. I wake up every time before he turns around. But he's turning faster now. I can see the movement starting. The shift of his shoulders. The beginning of the rotation of his head. And I don't know how I know, but I know that when he finally faces me, he's going to be smiling. That smile my grandmother wrote about. That smile that was not his smile anymore. I've started wearing the ring during the day. I know I said I wouldn't. I know I said I haven't. But I need to be honest with you, now that we're this far. I started wearing it because it felt like the only way to make the dreams less sharp. When it's on my finger, the man in the chair seems farther away. The hallway seems longer. Like he's being patient. Like he's content to wait. My grandmother wore this ring for 10 years. Every day, every night, until Raymond died and she pried it from his dead hand with a butter knife. She locked it away for almost 60 years after that. She never married again. She never even dated, as far as I know. She lived alone in that house in Pennsylvania, with her piano and her Earl Grey tea and her lavender sachets, and she never spoke about any of it. Not once. I used to think that was sad. I used to think she was lonely, that she had buried her grief so deep it calcified into silence. Now I think maybe she was protecting herself. Or protecting me. Or maybe she knew that some things, once spoken aloud, become more real. More present. More able to reach across the years and find you. I'm looking at the ring now. It's late past 2 in the morning and my apartment is quiet except for the radiator and the faint sound of traffic on Walnut Street. The inscription has changed again. I noticed it about an hour ago when I took it off to wash my hands. It doesn't say I am waiting anymore. It says something else now. Something worse. It says, almost. Just that one word. Almost. And I don't know what it means, not exactly, but I think about my grandmother's letter. About how she tried to leave, tried to get on that Greyhound bus to Pittsburgh, and got almost to freedom before the ring disappeared from her finger. Before Raymond was suddenly standing in the hallway, smiling that smile. I tried to call my mother's sister last week, my Aunt Carol, the only family I have left who might know anything. She's 82, in a nursing home in Virginia, and her memory is mostly gone. But when I mentioned Raymond's name, she went quiet. And then she said something that I keep turning over in my mind, trying to make sense of. She said, Eleanor thought she buried him. But some men don't stay buried. Some men find a different way to hold on. And then she started talking about the weather, about the birds outside her window, like she hadn't said anything strange at all. Like she'd already forgotten. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what to do with any of this. I just know that the ring is getting warmer. That the dreams are getting closer. That when I woke up this morning, there was a mark on my left hand, faint, reddish, like a fresh scar, in the exact shape of fingers. Someone else's fingers. Wrapped around mine. I've thought about telling someone in person. A therapist. A priest. The police, maybe, although what would I even say? My dead grandfather's ring keeps reappearing and the inscription keeps changing, and I think he's trying to reach me from wherever he went 60 years ago. They'd smile politely. They'd recommend medication. They'd tell me grief does strange things to the mind. Maybe they'd be right. Maybe this is all grief, twisted and distorted. Maybe I'm having some kind of delayed breakdown, processing the loss of the only parent figure I had left, and my brain is constructing this elaborate haunting to make sense of my loneliness. That would be easier, wouldn't it? That would be something I could fix. But the ring is real. The inscription is real. The marks on my hand are real. And when I close my eyes, even now, even awake, I can see that hallway. That door. That chair by the window. And I can feel him waiting. Patient. Certain. Like he knows something I don't. Like he knows I'll come back to him eventually. Like I always do. I'm going to stop recording now. It's almost 3 in the morning, and the ring is on my finger again. I don't remember putting it on, but it's there, warm against my skin, and I can hear something. Faint. Like breathing in the walls. Slow and patient and waiting. Like someone sleeping, except I know he's not sleeping. I want to tell you that I'm going to fight this. That I'm going to find some way to break the cycle, to destroy the ring, to free myself from whatever my grandfather became on that wedding night in 1952. I want to tell you that there's a plan, a way out, a door that doesn't lead to that room. But I don't know if that's true. I don't know if my grandmother ever really escaped, or if she just learned to live with him in a different way. To keep him at a distance. To hold her breath for 60 years, waiting for the moment when she could finally pass the ring to someone else. To me. If you're listening to this, if you're out there in the dark, headphones in, eyes closed, I need you to remember something for me. Remember that Eleanor Vance kept this secret for most of her life. Remember that she locked it away, along with the ring, along with the handkerchief, along with everything that reminded her of what she married. And remember that some heirlooms aren't gifts. They're debts. They're chains. They're promises that someone else made, that we're expected to keep. The inscription on the ring says almost now. But almost what? Almost free? Almost here? Almost mine? I keep turning it over, the gold warm in my palm, trying to understand. Trying to figure out what he wants. What's been waiting for me all these years, patient and cold and certain, in whatever dark place Raymond Vance went when his heart finally stopped. I think I know now. I think I've known since I read my grandmother's letter. He's not waiting for anything. He's just waiting. That's all he's ever done. That's all he knows how to do. And eventually, if you wait long enough, everything comes back to you. Everything returns. That's what the ring promised. That's what he inscribed in gold on their wedding night, until you return to me. I'm going to try to sleep now. The ring is warm on my finger. The hallway is waiting in my mind, just behind my eyelids, with its door and its room and its chair by the window. And somewhere in that room, a man is turning. Slowly. Patiently. His face coming into view 1 degree at a time. I wonder what I'll see when he finally looks at me. I wonder if he'll have my grandmother's patience in his eyes, or something else entirely. Something that's been waiting for 60 years. Something that doesn't know how to do anything else. Something that will never, ever stop. The ring is warm. Almost hot now. And I can hear that breathing again, closer than before, like it's coming from right beside my bed. Like someone is there, in the dark, waiting. Patient. Certain. Like he always knew I would come back. Like he always knew I was his, even before I was born. Until you return to me. That's what the ring promised. And I'm almost there now. Almost.